National Seniors Chief Advocate Ian Henschke says he welcomes the cost of living measures announced in this week's budget, but says more can be done to address what senior Australians need and what they can contribute. National Seniors is calling for a pay rise for aged care workers, as well as creating better employment opportunities for Australians over 55, aiming to fill critical shortages in the sector. Ian joins me live from Adelaide. Good afternoon to you, Ian. So tell us what your thoughts were on the budget this week.
Well, I think the budget was a very interesting one because the Prime Minister and the Treasurer said that they were addressing cost of living, and there were certainly some measures in there that help seniors. The $500, which is going to assist people with their electricity bills, depends on which state you're in, but it's around $500 you're going to get there. I mean, that's welcome. Also, Commonwealth rent assistance was raised by 15%, the maximum rate. That's something that's very important. But look, the big one that we've been fighting for the last couple of years now is we really do think, given the job situation in Australia, 438,000 jobs, that they should have done more with the call to let people work without such a penalty on their benefits, because the pensioner, as you know, at the moment loses 50 cents in the dollar for about the second day's work. I mean, they get a small amount on the first day, which is called a bonus. The second day, you basically get a penalty. That system has to change. It was interesting that Mr. Dutton talked about it in his budget reply, but I think there has to be a bigger push, because one of the things that's really surprising, and I don't think your viewers would know this, is that the ACTU has now come on board. So now we've got the Australian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, we've got the Council of Small Business Australia, we've got the National Farmers Federation and the ACTU and National Seniors all lining up, saying to the Treasurer and the Prime Minister, you've got 438,000 job vacancies out there, and yet you've still got a bonus and penalty system that works with pensioners. Well, it doesn't work, because even this $4,000 addition that they made last year, where they said, oh, a pensioner can now earn $7,800 in a normal year, but this year they can earn $4,000 extra, which makes it $11,800. Break that down, it's $1,000 a month. That's $250 a week. That's one day's work a week. And then they get penalised. You have to take the handbrake off the system and let people work, so it can be a win for the pensioner, a win for the economy. And actually, at the present time, when there are so many vacancies out there, it makes sense. And we've had modelling done by Deloitte, the economics agency, and that says that the government will actually make money from this once you get 8% of pensioners working. Now, in Australia at the moment, we have about 3% working. There's no question that the pensioners will work, because we surveyed them last year and they said they want to work because they need the money because of cost of living. So all these things are fitting together, and that is something that has to be done. We were deeply disappointed that in the budget it wasn't there. I've gone up to the Treasurer and I've said, there's the Deloitte modelling. I'm hoping he's reading it. I know he's had a huge week, but if Jim Chalmers has got a little bit of reading material this weekend, it would be the Deloitte modelling on that policy, because it's been given the gold stamp by Deloitte. In other words, it's a policy that's ready to go on the road and run. You've got this Jobs and Skills Summit last year, which they said they'd run an employment white paper in November. Well, we're hoping that will come out in the employment white paper. But look, Janie, you know, what can I say? We've said that you can help the government with this policy. And I will say one other thing that a lot of people may also be very surprised by, that National Seniors has been advocating ever since the Aged Care Royal Commission for people to stay in their own home if they want to, and not go into an aged care home. Now, you might remember we've been pushing that. Well, on one of the budget papers, it said that there was a saving made of $2.2 billion that is projected because of people staying in their own home, not going into an aged care home. So that shows you how seniors can be an asset for the government. So if they listen to this on that one, which has saved them $2.2 billion, I would suggest if they listen to us on this one, let the pensioners work who want to work without a penalty. They will get billions of dollars of revenue, which will come through to them from GST, because pensions will spend the money, from payroll tax, which will go into the state governments, which will help the states balance their books, from superannuation contribution tax, 15% on every bit of money that goes into the super fund. And then, of course, you've got income tax. So how can you not possibly win if you let pensioners work and they let other people work as well? They should be letting as many people that want to work. And I think in the budget they said they were going to let foreign students work more than they were allowed to previously. Well, why don't they let the pensioners do it? I mean, it beggars belief that this policy has not got across the line yet.
So why is it, do you think? And did Peter Dutton comment on this in his budget reply?
Well, he said in his budget reply that he thought that we needed to adjust the measures around people on JobSeeker because, see, if you're on JobSeeker, you lose 60 cents in the dollar if you get a little bit of work. Now, Peter Dutton said, look, we should be encouraging job seekers to work in the same way as he said we talked last year about encouraging pensioners to work. Now, that was one of the things Peter Dutton said, I think, very soon after he became Leader of the Opposition. Now, Josh Frydenberg and Scott Morrison used to distort this policy that we're putting forward by saying, oh, we don't want to force pensioners to work, or we've given them a bit of a bonus before and they haven't shown that they want to work. I don't think they want to work. So, I mean, that's the way they framed it under the Morrison-Frydenberg era. Peter Dutton, though, to his credit, actually sat down with one of the pensioners when he was in Adelaide about a year ago, or not long after he became leader, and the woman explained to him that she was working in aged care and that she would work on a weekend, earn a certain amount of money, then turn up at Centrelink on a Monday to report her earnings so they could take 50 cents in the dollar off. And once he heard these stories, he said, look, if the government's prepared to go further than just doubling the work bonus, which was his policy, we would support them. So now you've got a policy which is supported by the opposition. In other words, there is no opposition to the policy, supported by all of the major employer groups, supported by the ACTU, but Treasury is sitting there saying, oh, we can make money out of that worker because when she earns that money, we can take 50 cents back off her pension. I mean, it's a crazy system. And look, I know that your regular viewers will have heard me say this before, but in New Zealand, they have a system where you just let people work, and they have a workforce participation rate in New Zealand, which is 5 percentage points higher than Australia. And nearly all of that is because they have older people still in the workforce, still contributing, and they see their seniors as an asset, not a liability. And I get back to that point. If you listen to seniors, and we said they wanted to stay in their own home, not go into an aged care home, well, that saved $2.2 billion. If you listen to seniors and they say, we'd like to work, we'd like to help out with the problems at the moment in the economy, and they worked, it's been estimated that if you get 5% higher employment of seniors in Australia, that you'll get $48 billion into the economy. And that will mean $10 billion in taxation. So the government will have a $10 billion surplus, in other words, because of those seniors working. So we've just got to think about things differently. And I'm not going to give up on this one, Janie.
No, I don't doubt that for a second.
I may have missed out on this budget, but I'm not going to give up on it because it makes sense. And I've still had people contacting me. Thank you so much for the work you're doing at National Seniors to encourage people to work. There's a couple out there at the moment, and if they're out there watching, Dawn and Murray, they're actually involved in harvesting tomatoes, and they're actually in Victoria, and they are working long hours, and they are in their 70s. And they said there are other older Australians out there working. We need older Australians to be seen as an asset, not a liability. And too often we have ageism where people say, oh, they're costing us too much money. Well, they're not costing money. They've worked hard all their lives. Some of them want to retire. Some of them want to keep working. And they certainly want to stay in their own homes, not go into aged care homes. And that's, as I said, that gave the government $2.2 billion. And remember what President Kennedy said? Ask not what you can do for ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Well, seniors want to do something for the nation.
And with the estimated 190,000 migrants due into the country in the next year, what are your thoughts on the impact of immigration? Because that's set to obviously increase over the next few years going forward.
Well, I mean, look, it's a very interesting question, the whole question about immigration. That's 190,000 permanent migrants, but you have a net migration which consists of students, backpackers, tourists, etc. And that's why we hear these figures of hundreds of thousands of people coming into Australia. But in the budget papers, and it was very interesting to read, the unemployment figure is projected to be 4.25% next year, and the year after 4.5%. Now, they're still very historically low unemployment figures. And part of the reason is during COVID, we lost 480,000 people. They went away, and that's why we've got this jobs crisis at the moment, this vacancy issue, which is 438,000 on the latest ABS. So that's why we're saying you do need a certain level of migration to fill those jobs, but you also need to use the resources within your own community, the sort of things that we've just been talking about, encouraging people to take up work, part-time or full-time work if you're a senior and you want to go back to work. You've got job seekers, which we're saying you should let them work more. You've got people that are on disability pensions who get punished as well, and they can work more. I know a gentleman that works for a disability service organisation, and he gets punished when he works more than a certain number of hours. I forget, it's 15 hours a fortnight or something like that. The veterans who've retired at the age of 60, the service veterans, if they work, they lose money if they work, and many of them have got wonderful skills. So, I mean, it's a matter of trying to work out how you can get the participation rate up in Australia. And I'll go back to that figure. New Zealand has 71% participation rate. They're not that different from us, and we've got 66%. There's a 5% differential between those two countries. So they're doing something different there to encourage people to work and stay working longer. And I say it is, they let them work and they don't punish them if they're on a pension. That's going to be a big issue, and we will not stop advocating for it.
No, you won't. You hear it there. And thank you so much. We love your passion. Always great to see you, Ian Henschke. Take care.
Yeah, have a great weekend. Thanks again.
You too.